Welcome to the Family Office, planning for the people who matter most.
It's very interesting. I'm watching a live action. I don't even know what you call it. You probably know what I'm talking about better than I do. But anyways, what I'm doing is I'm watching a live social experiment right now, I feel like. And I'm looking at the difference between Emery, my 14-year-old, and Thomas, my 13-year-old. And I'm looking at the differences on how they are interacting with the world. And it's just absolutely fascinating. And the reason why it's just absolutely fascinating to me, Len, and you probably are going to know what I'm talking about because obviously you're two sons, in that how they receive the world or acquire things. And what I mean by that is that Emery is very carefree. They both, by the way, both of them are up until the last grading period straight A students. This changed a little bit.
That's awesome.
So Emery used to be all straight A's, but he's got one B. All the rest are A's, right? Albeit, Len, you're an educator, it's an 86 B. Okay, so it's above an 85.
Close to an A, yeah.
It's still an Asian F, but you know. And now Thomas secretly has all A's, and they've always competed, but Thomas has all A's.
Okay.
Now, also, albeit because everyone likes to look at data, Emery has one more honors class than Thomas does, so you know maybe it balances there. But at any rate, Emery is very carefree and is not very, doesn't take a lot very seriously, and he's like that type of personality or the type of kid that you see where it's just like it's very easy for him, right? Mm-hmm. And doesn't really do anything unless someone asks him to do it. You know, he's responsible and all that stuff. He'll take care, but he's not going to do anything unless someone asks him to do it
on an as-needed basis. Yes,
on an as-needed basis. Correct. Whereas Thomas is like my twin, and Thomas is going to just do everything. Thomas is vacuuming the car, and it's like Thomas is doing everything he can to be an adult, and he's not an adult, right? And he doesn't rarely seek help for anything, right? So he's very independent, but he's cleaning around the house, helping the kid, all of the things that you would like without being asked. So then when it comes time to get something, Emery just gets everything without having to do anything, right? And it's like Thomas never hardly ever gets anything, but it's like the difference here is that Emery asks, and Thomas waits for someone to see what he's doing and then say, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool! Like you deserve, lunch or whatever the case may be." Or so Emery's just say, "Hey, I want X, Y, Z," and I want, and it's interesting to watch those two different dynamics, and then pushing that out if no one ever looked at that or learned from that, how that could be damaging to someone later on in life if you don't realize that that's how that person ultimately seeks attention or validation or feels needed or wanted, right? And I'm sure you've seen that before. So it's just curious because I'm observing that right now. And how is that for you? Did you have a difference? Because Emery is very emotional and Thomas is very logical. So it makes sense why their approaches are different.
Mm-hmm. It's so weird to see how both kids raised in the same household by the same parents with essentially the same variables be completely different from each other. And I would say for my kids, it was weird because even my wife would say Jahi, my older son, he was very active in her stomach and he's the very active kid. So, as he was growing up, we always knew when he was home because he was always running up and down the stairs. He was never quiet. He was always the one that had friends over. Kill's very mild mannered, very quiet, very chilled, laid back type of personality. And so in terms of the taking initiative part, I would say my younger son, who's the more reserved one, is the one who's very independent. He takes initiative, and Jahi's very much I will do as needed. But interestingly, Jahi's very much a person who is outgoing. He's an extrovert. He likes people to be happy. He gives very good advice. And so you would think the person that, is very independent would be that person. But he's not very much of a people person. He's good around people, but he's more of an introvert. And so, it's in there, your kids are, the two, Emery and Thomas, they're only a year apart. Jahi and Akil, they're 2.5 years apart, and they couldn't be more different in every way possible.
It's interesting to see the parallels and the similarities. And obviously it also is fresh to see too, in that someone might look at that and go, oh yeah, well, that's a Mexican Caucasian split household versus a truly strictly 100% African American household, and it's absolutely almost identical, the stories, and it matches out. And that just goes to show you that it doesn't always have to be an ethnicity thing. It doesn't, and I think people try to categorize that and stratify that too many times, and it's just it's because the logical person is the reserved person, and the kids match up the same in a different household, and I can't wait to see how those two progress, and as they get older, and then to see how I'm gonna lean on you to.
Yeah, anytime, man. Because I would tell you,
I don't have that age group yet. It doesn't end, right?
It doesn't, man. It just transforms and it shifts. And and what's interesting is that your kids, you just never know how those personality characteristics will bear out over time. Because the one, Thomas being more of the person that wants to please and wants to help people, he may end up doing something in ministry or serving his fellow, man and woman. And Thomas could do the same thing. You just never know how it manifests itself, because they both have personality characteristics that could transform in so many different ways, so it's really critical for you and Mary, especially at this time in their lives, especially given the ages they are, really be observant of the types of skills they lean into naturally, and just continue to put things around them that allow them to express themselves in terms of their skill sets. And then eventually they'll figure it out. And, and over time, you'll start to introduce them to different people and mentors that can continue to cultivate their gifts and talents and their skills.
And I think as you say that, and I'm sitting here and I'm listening to it again, and I know this isn't always an option for everybody, and I understand that, and I respect that, because it really isn't. But being an entrepreneur and having time control and allowing me to be able to manage that has allowed me to be more around them. Mm-hmm. And I think just as much time as you can spending with your kids is so critical, because you see traits and you see features and personalities that people that don't know them don't know. Mm-hmm. And you being able to see that, it allows you to be so much quicker and not necessarily correct but to help them and
to
guide them
and cultivate.
Yes. And program, so to speak, their life decoder, so that what they are feeling and what they are seeing and hearing, it can be more close to truth than what they might make up in their mind. And I think
absolutely
that's where you see kids excel past their parents much faster in certain families versus other families where children never outgrow their parents or only reach that level and stay there as well, right? So
yeah. Just to put a bow on this conversation, unless you want to go deeper, one of the things that I did with Jahi, my older son, is he was having trouble trying to figure out where he wanted to go in his life. And so what we did is we took a big old, we did a conversation where we had some poster board. And on one side, I created a big T, and I said, okay, tell me what your gifts are. Like, what are you good at? And he talked about the fact that he's good at, stats like sports, and that he, loves talking to people. He's very good at remembering names. He's very good at giving advice. And he just gave me a laundry list of things. And so what we did together is we found a profession that aligns really closely with that. And it turns out that it was school counseling. And so, so what we did is we went point by point, and I asked him, I said, hey, these are the characteristics of a good school counselor. They're good at talking to people. They're good at this. Do you feel that this aligns with you? Yes. How about this one? Yes. Like sports. And he's like, nah, not really. And so it wasn't a 1-for-1 perfect match, but what he saw with his own eyes without me trying to tell him what to do was that he had personality characteristics and natural skills that aligned with a specific profession. And that's really what helped guide him to make that decision as to what profession he wanted to go into. And so had I not been a parent who really knows my son, knows his characteristics, knows his skills, what he's good at, and what he's also not good at naturally, then I would not have had the ability to guide him through that exercise. And to your point, Chris, had I not been around to really see him and study his tendencies and know all of those things, because entrepreneurship gave me the time freedom and the resources to be able to structure, a pathway and a conversation and guide him towards what he eventually wants to do. Without entrepreneurship, I wouldn't have been able to do that, at least to the degree that I am. And so I am so grateful for entrepreneurship. But having said that, there are people that, my son is not a natural entrepreneur. He's very good with people. He could do sales and things like that, but entrepreneurship doesn't come naturally to him. And I think it's important to be self-aware enough to know not only yourself, but as a parent, you need to also be aware of their natural gifts and all of those things so you can help cultivate those.
Well, look, we're out of time.
It's always good, man. I enjoyed the conversation as always. And hey, listen, some of you are going to agree with Chris's points. Some of you are going to agree with my points. And depending upon the episode, you may disagree with both of us from time to time. And that's what good debate and good conversation should be. And so we want to hear from you. Please like, comment, subscribe, and we look forward to just giving you better and better content as we can. And as you continue to give us energy, we will continue to bring information that's relevant to you as it relates to your health, as it relates to your wealth. And also, we will talk about our opinions about current events. Even though we're not journalists, we're just two businessmen in two different arenas looking to give you value in any way that we can. So with that being said, Chris, have a good one and see you next week.
Conversation has given you clarity on your next steps. Please share this episode with someone who's walking the same path. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, planning ahead isn't just prudent, it's an act of care. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on The Family Office.